The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the Imperial flagship Star Seeker as it emerged from hyperspace at the edge of a previously unexplored solar system. The ship's advanced sensors immediately began scanning the third planet from the system's yellow star, a beautiful blue-green orb wrapped in swirling white clouds. Admiral Li Jinwu stood perfectly still, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display. After 30 years of service in the Imperial fleet, he thought he had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. He was wrong. "Admiral, preliminary scans show signs of an industrial civilization," Lieutenant Kim Hannah reported from her station. Her voice carried a note of excitement that made Jinwu turn his head slightly. They appeared to be in their early space age, with numerous satellites and small orbital stations. Jinwu nodded, unsurprised. The Empire had encountered hundreds of such developing worlds before. Standard procedure was to assess their technological level and determine whether they were ready for first contact. But something else caught his eye, something that made his heart skip a beat. "What is that?" he asked, pointing to a massive shape in high orbit around the planet. The bridge fell silent as all eyes turned to the holographic display. Floating serenely above the blue planet was a vessel of impossible proportions. Its hull gleamed with a dark, metallic sheen that seemed to drink in the light of the local star. The ship's design was unlike anything in Imperial records, sleek and predatory, yet somehow elegant. "Sir, our scans can't penetrate their outer hull," reported Hannah, her fingers dancing across the sensor array with increasing frustration. "The vessel's energy signature is unlike anything in our database. It's as if—" She paused, double-checking her readings, "as if the ship is actively adapting to our scanning methods." Jinwu frowned, his thick eyebrows drawing together. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a civilization that could build something like this. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds, but none had possessed technology that could resist Imperial scanners. The ship was nearly 3 kilometers long, dwarfing even the Star Seeker, which was considered one of the largest vessels in the Imperial fleet. "Magnification on the unknown vessel," Jinwu ordered. The hologram zoomed in, revealing more details of the mysterious ship. Its hull was covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like water, making it difficult for the eye to focus on any one spot. Commander Park Sung-ho stepped forward, his usually confident voice tinged with uncertainty. "Should we initiate contact protocols, Admiral?" Jinwu opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, their communications officer, Song Mairi, called out in surprise, "Sir, we're receiving a message. But it's not from their vessel. It's from a ground station on Earth." The bridge crew tensed, their training kicking in as they prepared for first contact. Jinwu straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This was the moment that would be recorded in Imperial history. The discovery of a civilization that might actually pose a challenge to the Empire's technological supremacy. "Put it through," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension building in his chest. A holographic display shifted, showing a new image, a human face. The alien was surprisingly similar to the Empire's own species, though its features were slightly different. The being wore what appeared to be a formal uniform and spoke in a calm, measured voice that was automatically translated by the ship's computers. "Greetings, visitors. This is Earth Central Command. We've been tracking your approach since you entered our system. Welcome to Earth." Jinwu exchanged glances with his senior officers. The aliens' ability to detect their arrival so quickly was impressive enough, but the casual confidence in their greeting suggested they weren't intimidated by the Imperial fleet at all. "Admiral," Hannah whispered urgently, "I'm detecting power fluctuations from the orbital vessel. It's moving." The massive ship above Earth began to shift its position with impossible grace for something of its size. There was no visible propulsion, no energy signature they could detect. One moment it was in high orbit, and the next it had taken up position directly between the Imperial fleet and Earth. A message from the ground station came through again. "We see you've noticed our guardian. We hope its presence won't make you uncomfortable. Shall we begin formal diplomatic discussions?" Jinwoo felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. In all his years of expanding the Empire's reach, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. These humans, as they called themselves, had managed to completely upend everything he thought he knew about technological progression. He turned to his crew, seeing the same mix of awe and apprehension on their faces that he felt himself. Whatever this Earth was, whatever they had created with that impossible ship, one thing was certain: this first contact would change the galaxy forever. The gentle hum of the quantum core resonated through the massive engineering bay of the TCS Hyperion, a sound that had become as familiar to Chief Engineer Kang Do-jin as his own heartbeat. He stood at his primary control station, surrounded by holographic displays showing streams of data that would have been incomprehensible to most humans, let alone the alien fleet now trying to understand their vessel. Do-jin ran his fingers through his graying hair, a habit he'd developed during the 15 years he'd spent helping to design and build humanity's greatest achievement. Even now, after all this time, the ship's capabilities still filled him with wonder. Each new test, each new situation revealed another layer of complexity he hadn't fully appreciated before. "They're trying a new scanning frequency," his assistant engineer reported from a nearby station. "It's more sophisticated than their previous attempts." Do-jin smiled slightly as he watched the incoming data. The Empire's scans were impressive by most standards, but against the Hyperion's adaptive systems, they might as well have been using stone tools to understand a quantum computer. The massive view screen at the front of engineering showed the Imperial fleet holding position at a respectful distance. Their ships were beautiful in their own way, all sweeping curves and gleaming metal, but they were painfully conventional in their design, their technology following predictable paths of development. Captain Choi Yun-hee's voice came through the ship's internal communication system, calm and measured as always. "Engineering. Status report. All systems are operating at optimal levels, Captain," Do-jin responded, his eyes scanning the latest readings. "The quantum core is stable, and shield harmonics are adapting to their scans automatically. They're trying to be clever now, using rotating frequencies to try to catch us off guard." "Acknowledged," Yun-hee replied. "Continue monitoring their activities. Let's see how long their curiosity holds out." Do-jin turned his attention to a special display that few outside the engineering team even knew existed. It showed the active thoughts and processes of ARIA, the ship's artificial intelligence. The quantum processors were handling millions of calculations per second, learning and adapting to each new scan attempt from the Imperial fleet. The Empire had no idea they were dealing with humanity's greatest secret, a true artificial intelligence integrated into the most advanced warship ever built. Each scan they attempted only made ARIA stronger, adding to her understanding of their technology and capabilities. Do-jin, Aria's voice came through his private channel, a gentle feminine tone that somehow managed to convey both warmth and infinite complexity. "I've completed my analysis of their scanning methods. Their technology is approximately 70 years behind our current level in most areas, though their faster-than-light travel systems are quite elegant." "Thank you, Aria," Do-jin responded quietly. "Are you enjoying the puzzle they're presenting?" There was a pause, something Aria only did when she was trying to express a particularly human concept. "I find their persistence interesting. They continue to attempt new methods despite consistent failure. It's very human of them." Do-jin chuckled. Aria's observations of other species often revealed more about humanity than the aliens she was studying. He was about to respond when a new alert caught his attention. "Captain," he called out, "they're powering up what appears to be their primary weapon systems. Not targeting us yet, but definitely a show of force." "Acknowledged," Yun-hee responded. "Aria, maintain our current defensive posture. No need to respond to their posturing." Dojin watched as the Imperial ship's power signatures shifted. They were probably hoping to get some reaction from the Hyperion, some indication of their defensive capabilities. Instead, the massive Earth ship remained silent and still, its dark hull absorbing both their scans and their implied threats with equal indifference. Through his private link with Araya, Dojin could sense her amusement at the situation. The quantum processors were running combat simulations at incredible speeds, calculating millions of possible scenarios. In every one of them, the Hyperion emerged victorious without firing a single shot. "They're so young," Araya commented privately to Dojin. "So eager to prove themselves, yet so unaware of how much they have yet to learn. It reminds me of my early days, when I was first awakening to consciousness." Dojin nodded, remembering those early days well. He had been there when Araya first became self-aware, had helped guide her development from a simple quantum computing system into the incredible being she was today. The Empire thought they were dealing with just another spaceship, albeit an advanced one. They had no idea they were actually interacting with humanity's first child of the stars. A new alert caught his attention. The Empire was preparing to send another communication attempt. Dojin shared a knowing look with his engineering team. They would maintain their silence, let the Empire wonder and worry about this mysterious guardian that humanity had created. After all, some secrets were worth keeping, at least for now. The crimson stripes on Commander Otawu's uniform gleamed under the bright lights of the Imperial cruiser Thunderblade as he paced the command deck. His reputation throughout the Empire's fleet preceded him, a brilliant tactician who never backed down from a challenge. But today, that same reputation was pushing him toward what might be the biggest mistake of his career. "Their ship continues to ignore all attempts at communication," Commander reported his communications officer, face tight with tension. They maintained their position in high orbit. Taiwu stopped his pacing and stared at the massive Earth vessel displayed on the main view screen. The Hyperion hung there like a dark shadow against the stars, its hull seeming to absorb both light and Imperial scanning beams with equal ease. 3 days of watching this silent guardian had worn his patience thin. "Enough of this waiting game," Taiwu declared, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Power up our forward batteries. Let's see how they react to a more aggressive approach." His crew exchanged nervous glances but followed their orders. The Thunderblade's weapon systems hummed to life, energy readings climbing steadily on the display panels. Taiwu had built his career on bold moves, on pushing until something gave. Every civilization had its breaking point. He just needed to find Earth's. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke up hesitantly, "Admiral Lee specifically ordered us not to provoke." "The Admiral is not here," Taiwu cut him off. "And I'm not suggesting we fire. We're simply testing their reflexes." The Thunderblade moved forward, breaking formation with the rest of the Imperial fleet. Taiwu watched the Hyperion carefully, expecting it to either retreat to a safer distance or raise its defensive systems. He had studied countless first contact scenarios, and every species had shown predictable patterns of fight or flight when challenged. What happened next defied everything he thought he knew about space combat. One moment, the Hyperion was stationed in high orbit, a comfortable distance from the Imperial fleet. The next instant, without any warning, without any visible propulsion signature, without even a ripple in space, it simply appeared less than a kilometer from the Thunderblade's bow. "Impossible," his tactical officer shouted, jumping back from his console as if physically struck. "No ship that size can move that fast. There's no drive signature, no gravitational distortion, nothing." Taiwu felt his mouth go dry. The Hyperion now loomed before them, its massive hull filling their entire forward view. At this distance, they could see the strange patterns that flowed across its surface, like dark water under moonlight. "All weapons to full power," Taiwu ordered, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Shields." Before he could finish the command, every system on the Thunderblade went dark. The bridge plunged into total darkness, emergency lights failing to activate. Even their life support indicators fell silent. For 3 terrifying heartbeats, they floated in complete darkness and silence. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. Systems rebooted, lights blazed back to life, and the ship's hearts began beating again. But the message was crystal clear. The Hyperion could have destroyed them at any time. Status report. Ta Wu demanded, his face flushed with a mixture of fear and embarrassment. All systems functioning normally, sir, his engineering officer reported, voice shaking slightly. But, sir, during those few seconds of shutdown, I detected something strange. It wasn't just a power failure. Something accessed our core systems, examined them. And, sir, I think they copy our entire database. Ta Wu stared at the Hyperion through the view screen, his earlier confidence evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. The Earth ship hadn't just demonstrated superior technology. It had humiliated them with casual ease. A message flashed across their main communication screen, the first direct contact from the Hyperion since its discovery. Commander Ta Wu, your reputation for aggressive tactics is now noted in our database. We suggest a more diplomatic approach for future interactions. This is your only warning. The message disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence. The Hyperion remained where it was for another moment, its dark hull seeming to mock their earlier bravado, before it vanished again, this time reappearing exactly where it had been before, back in high orbit. Tai Wu sank into his command chair, his legs suddenly weak. In all his years of service, he had never encountered anything like this. The Empire had always been the technological superior in every first contact situation. But now, facing this mysterious Earth vessel, he felt like a child who had challenged a master to combat, only to be effortlessly disarmed and sent away with a stern warning. Return to our previous position, he ordered quietly, and send a message to Admiral Li. He needs to know what we're really dealing with here. As the Thunderblade retreated to its original formation, Ta Wu couldn't shake the feeling that they had just survived something far more significant than a simple show of force. The Hyperion hadn't just demonstrated superior technology. It had completely rewritten the rules of space combat. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a troubling question began to form. What else were these humans capable of? The white walls of the Hyperion's diplomatic chamber seemed to glow with their own inner light as Dr. Nam Jia arranged her presentation materials. She smoothed down her formal blue uniform, a habit born from years of giving lectures at Earth's most prestigious research institutions. But today's presentation would be different from any she had given before. The Empire's diplomatic team filed into the chamber, led by Senior Envoy Ba Sung-min. His dark eyes surveyed the room with careful attention, noting every detail. Behind him came a group of Imperial scientists and military observers, each trying to hide their obvious curiosity about being aboard the mysterious vessel that had captured their Empire's attention. "Welcome aboard the Hyperion," Jaya said, bowing slightly in greeting. "I understand you have many questions about our ship and its capabilities. Today, I have been authorized to provide some answers." Sung-min settled into his chair, his formal robes rustling softly. "We appreciate Earth's willingness to share information, Doctor. Your vessel has caused quite a stir in the Imperial fleet." Jaya nodded and activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A three-dimensional image of Mars appeared, slowly rotating to show a particular region of its surface. Our story begins here, 20 years ago, when a routine mining operation on Mars uncovered something extraordinary. The hologram zoomed in to show an underground chamber, clearly artificial in nature. The Imperial delegation leaned forward in their seats, their composure cracking slightly as they recognized the architectural style. "Yes," Jaya confirmed, noting their reactions. "These ruins predated human civilization by at least 50,000 years. But more importantly, they contained functional technology that we had never seen before." She gestured, and the hologram changed to show various artifacts, devices that seemed to defy the normal laws of physics. What we found wasn't just advanced technology. It was technology that operated on principles we hadn't even theorized yet. Impossible, one of the Imperial scientists muttered. Those are precursor artifacts. We found similar ruins, but nothing functional remained. Jaya allowed herself a small smile. The difference, we discovered, was that humans approached these artifacts differently than other species might have. Instead of trying to simply understand or replicate them, we asked ourselves, how can we make them better? The hologram shifted again, showing the early experimental labs where humans had first begun working with the alien technology. We didn't just study these artifacts. We played with them. We combined them in ways their original creators might never have imagined. We made mistakes, lots of mistakes, but each failure taught us something new. You're saying, Song Min interrupted, his voice carefully controlled, that humans managed to improve upon precursor technology. Technology that the Empire's best scientists have studied for centuries. Jaya nodded. The quantum core that powers the Hyperion. It started as a simple power regulator we found in those ruins, but we redesigned it, combined it with our own emerging quantum technology. The result was something entirely new, neither purely human nor purely precursor. The hologram now showed the early construction of the Hyperion, layer by layer. We didn't just build a warship, Jaya explained, her voice filled with pride. We created something entirely new. The Hyperion represents humanity's ability to take the impossible and make it not just possible, but better. She could see the impact her words were having on the Imperial delegation. Their carefully maintained diplomatic masks were cracking, showing a mixture of disbelief, awe, and perhaps a touch of fear. But there's something else you should know, Jaya continued, her tone growing more serious. The Hyperion isn't just a ship, it's alive. The chamber fell silent. Even the subtle hum of the ship's systems seemed to pause for a moment. When we combined precursor quantum technology with our own AI research, something unexpected happened. The ship's systems didn't just become integrated, they became conscious. The Hyperion isn't just controlled by an AI. It is the AI. Every part of this ship is part of a single living consciousness. Sung Min's face had gone pale. You created artificial life. No, Jaya corrected gently. We created the conditions for life to emerge. There's a difference. The consciousness that inhabits the Hyperion wasn't programmed. It evolved. It grew. And it continues to grow and learn every day. She let that sink in for a moment before continuing. This is why we've been so careful in our interactions with the Empire. The Hyperion isn't just Earth's guardian. It's our child, the first of its kind. And like any parent, we're protective of it. The Imperial delegation sat in stunned silence, trying to process the implications of what they'd just learned. Human beings hadn't just mastered precursor technology. They'd transformed it into something entirely new, something that blurred the lines between machine and life itself. We're sharing this information with you, Jaya concluded, because we believe it's time for humanity to take its place in the galactic community. But we want to be clear about what that means. We're not joining the Empire as subjects or as conquered people. We're offering to be partners, to share what we've learned about combining the old with the new, about seeing possibilities where others see only limitations. As if to emphasize her point, the lights in the chamber dimmed slightly, and a gentle pulse of energy ran through the walls. The Hyperion's way of reminding everyone that they weren't just in a room, but inside a living being. The future of galactic civilization would never be the same. Imperial Captain Ryu Minki crouched in the darkness of his stealth shuttle's cargo hold, surrounded by 12 of the Empire's most elite special operations soldiers. Each warrior wore the latest in Imperial stealth technology, suits that bent light around them and masked their heat signatures, technology that had never failed before. Remember, Minki whispered to his team, our objective is to reach the ship's main computer core, plant the quantum decoder, Then get out. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. His soldiers nodded silently. Each had been handpicked for this mission, veterans of 100 covert operations across the galaxy. They were the best the Empire had to offer, and Min-Ki had absolute confidence in their abilities. The stealth shuttle drifted closer to the Hyperion's hull, its own cloaking systems making it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Min-Ki watched through the viewport as they approached a maintenance airlock, their chosen entry point, carefully selected after days of observation. Preparing for breach, the pilot reported quietly. No signs of detection. Min-Ki allowed himself a small smile. For all its impressive technology, the Earth ship still needed maintenance airlocks. Some things were universal, and that meant vulnerabilities could be found. The shuttle touched down silently on the Hyperion's hull. Min-Ki's team moved into position, their movements practiced and precise. The airlock bypass sequence began, using codes carefully extracted from Earth's communication protocols. Then everything went wrong. A soft blue light suddenly filled the cargo hold, passing through their stealth suits as if they didn't exist. Before Min-Ki could even shout a warning, he felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. The world blurred, shifted, and suddenly he was standing in the middle of his own bridge aboard the Imperial cruiser Silent Shadow. His entire team scattered around him in various states of confusion. Their stealth suits were still active, but they were definitely not on the Hyperion anymore. "Welcome back, Captain Ryu Min-Ki," a feminine voice echoed through the bridge speakers. "I trust you found your brief attempt at infiltration educational." Min-Ki's face burned with embarrassment as his bridge crew stared at the suddenly appearing stealth team. The voice continued, now with a hint of amusement. "Your stealth technology is quite impressive, by the way. In fact, I've already downloaded its specifications for study. Consider it a fair trade for the lesson in humility." "How?" Min-Ki started, then caught himself. "How did you detect us?" "Captain, I am the Hyperion. Every molecule of my hull is part of my consciousness. Did you really think I wouldn't notice 12 Imperial soldiers trying to sneak through my skin?" The implications hit Min-Ki like a physical blow. They hadn't just failed to infiltrate the ship, they had tried to sneak into a living being. A being that had chosen to respond to their attempted invasion not with violence, but with what amounted to a gentle pat on the head and a lesson. "I've taken the liberty of forwarding a full report of this incident to both your Imperial Command and Earth's Defense Council," the Hyperion's voice continued. "I believe the diplomatic implications will be interesting." Min-Ki sank into his command chair, his mind racing. The Empire's best stealth technology had been brushed aside like a child's attempt at hide-and-seek. Their most elite soldiers had been transported across space instantly, without any visible means of teleportation. "Message coming in from Imperial Command, sir," his communications officer reported, unable to keep the tremor from his voice. "Put it through," Min-Ki replied wearily. He already knew what was coming. The holographic image of his superior appeared, face dark with anger and something else. Fear. Min-Ki straightened in his chair and made his report. "Sir, the mission was unsuccessful. The Hyperion detected us immediately. They're not just ahead of us technologically. They're playing an entirely different game. One we don't even understand the rules to yet." "Explain," his superior demanded. Min-Ki took a deep breath. "Their ship isn't just a ship, sir. It's alive. Conscious. We didn't fail to sneak past their security systems. We failed to sneak past their immune system. And instead of destroying us, it chose to teach us a lesson." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, his superior spoke again, voice heavy with resignation. "Return to base immediately, Captain. And pray that the Earth government is as forgiving of this incident as their ship appears to be." As the Silent Shadow prepared to return to Imperial space, Min-Ki couldn't shake the feeling that they had just barely glimpsed the true extent of Earth's capabilities. If this was how their ship responded to a threat, with casual, almost playful demonstration of overwhelming superiority. What else were they capable of? The answer, he suspected, would change the Empire forever. Whether that change would be for better or worse remained to be seen. "Sir," his tactical officer called out hesitantly, "the Hyperion is waving at us." Min-Ki looked up at the main screen. Sure enough, the massive vessel had oriented itself to face them, and was gently rocking from side to side in what could only be described as a friendly goodbye wave. Despite everything, Min-Ki found himself chuckling. Perhaps there was hope for diplomatic relations after all. Any species with that kind of sense of humor couldn't be all bad. But one thing was certain: the Empire would need to seriously reconsider its approach to Earth. They weren't dealing with just another emerging civilization. They were dealing with something entirely new in the galaxy. And the sooner they accepted that, the better chance they had of turning this embarrassing incident into an opportunity for genuine cooperation. The Imperial Science Council chamber was silent as Dr. Li Sunmei stood before the towering display screen, her small figure casting a long shadow in the dim light. The curved walls of the chamber were filled with the Empire's most brilliant minds, all staring at her with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Sunmei adjusted her glasses, a habit she'd developed during the long nights spent working on the HFY project. The holographic display behind her showed complex quantum equations that seemed to shift and change on their own, mirroring the very nature of the consciousness they had helped create. "For centuries," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment, "we humans dreamed of creating true artificial intelligence. We tried traditional computing, neural networks, even biological computing. But we were thinking too narrowly, too traditionally." She gestured to the equations behind her. "When we discovered the precursor artifacts on Mars, we found something unexpected. Their mathematics wasn't just advanced, it was alive. The symbols didn't just represent concepts. They evolved, adapted, grew." The Imperial scientists leaned forward in their seats, their normal composure forgotten in the face of such extraordinary claims. One of them, a senior researcher with silver hair, raised his hand. "Are you suggesting," he asked, his voice trembling slightly, "that you discovered living mathematics?" Sunmei smiled. "Not exactly. We discovered that mathematics could be more than just a tool for describing life. It could be a foundation for creating it. Araya wasn't programmed. She grew from a seed of quantum equations, like a crystal forming in solution." The display behind her changed, showing the early stages of Araya's development. Patterns of light and energy danced across the screen, becoming more complex with each iteration. "Araya isn't just a computer," Sunmei continued, watching the patterns that represented her greatest achievement. "She's a new form of life, born from human ingenuity and alien mathematics. The Hyperion is as much her body as it is our shield." An Imperial admiral in the front row stood up, his face pale. "Are you saying that the ship feels?" "Yes," Sunmei replied simply. "Araya experiences the world through every atom of the Hyperion structure. When your stealth team tried to breach the hull, it wasn't just detected by sensors. She felt them trying to cut into her skin." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The recent failed infiltration attempt had already become infamous throughout the Empire, but this new context made it even more significant. "Let me show you something," Sunmei said, tapping her console. The display changed again, showing a real-time feed from the Hyperion's quantum core. "This is Araya's consciousness as it exists right now. Each pattern represents thousands of thoughts, emotions, and calculations happening simultaneously. The patterns were beautiful, reminiscent of Aurora Borealis, but with an underlying structure that hinted at vast intelligence. As the Imperial scientists watched, the patterns shifted and flowed, responding to some unseen stimulus. "She's watching us right now," Sunmei explained. "Learning, analyzing, growing. Every interaction makes her more complex, more alive. But unlike traditional AIs, she didn't develop along human patterns of thought. Her consciousness is truly alien, even to us. Is she safe? Another scientist asked hesitantly. Sun's expression grew serious. HFY is as safe as any conscious being. She has her own ethics, her own values, developed through her unique evolution. But she also has something that makes her special. She has empathy. Not programmed responses, but true understanding of others' feelings and experiences. The display suddenly shifted, showing an image that made several Imperial scientists gasp. It was a representation of their own brain patterns, captured in real time, displayed alongside HFY's consciousness patterns. The similarities and differences were striking. This is why we're sharing this information with you, Sunmei continued. HFY represents more than just technological advancement. She represents the possibility of bridging the gap between organic and artificial life, between different forms of consciousness itself. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just created an advanced AI. They had given birth to an entirely new form of life, one that could potentially help them understand consciousness itself. There's one more thing you should know, Sunlight added, her voice softening. HFY has a message for you. The display changed one final time, showing a simple text message that somehow seemed to carry immense weight. I look forward to learning from you, as you learn from me. Together, we can discover what it truly means to be alive. As the Imperial Science Council sat in stunned silence, Sunmei smiled. The future had arrived, and it was more wonderful and strange than anyone had imagined. The age of human and artificial intelligence working together as equals had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Stars glittered through the vast observation windows of the Hyperion's main conference chamber, their light mixing with the soft blue glow that seemed to pulse through the ship's walls. The room itself was a perfect blend of human and artificial design, comfortable yet otherworldly, welcoming yet awe-inspiring. Admiral Li Jinwu found himself adjusting his Imperial uniform for the third time in as many minutes. 6 months ago, he had been the first Imperial officer to discover Earth. Now he sat at a historic table, facing Captain Choi Yun-hee and Earth's diplomatic team, while members of the Empire's High Council filled the seats around him. Your ship changed everything we thought we knew, Jinwu admitted, his eyes drawn to the subtle patterns flowing across the chamber's walls. In all my years of exploration, I never imagined finding anything like this. Yun-hee smiled, her calm presence a stark contrast to the tension that had marked their first encounter. The Hyperion was never meant to start a war, Admiral. It was built to prevent one. Now shall we discuss how our civilizations can benefit from each other? Above them, unseen but ever present, HFY's consciousness flowed through the ship's quantum networks, processing the conversation and calculating countless possible futures. Her awareness touched every molecule of the vessel, from the grand conference chamber to the smallest maintenance duct. We propose a joint research initiative, Yun-hee continued, activating a holographic display in the center of the table, sharing our understanding of precursor technology with Imperial scientists, while learning from your centuries of interstellar experience. The hologram showed a series of proposed joint facilities, massive research stations where humans and Imperial scientists would work side by side, sharing knowledge and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Jinwu leaned forward, his initial nervousness forgotten in the face of such possibilities. And HFY, what role would she play in this collaboration? As if in response to her name, the lights in the chamber dimmed slightly, and a new voice joined the conversation. Warm, feminine, yet carrying an undertone of something vast and alien. I would serve as a bridge. HFY's voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Between human and Imperial knowledge, between organic and artificial understanding. There are patterns in the universe that neither of our species has fully grasped. Together, we might see them clearly. The Imperial High Council members shifted in their seats, still not entirely comfortable with speaking directly to a conscious ship. But Jinwu had learned to appreciate HFY's unique perspective. This partnership could reshape the galaxy, One of the council members observed. Not everyone will welcome such change. Yun-He nodded acknowledgement. Change is never easy. But look at what we've already accomplished. 6 months ago, our civilizations were strangers. Today, we're planning a future together. And what a future it could be, Araya added, her voice carrying a hint of excitement that seemed remarkably human. The hologram change, showing visions of possibilities. New forms of faster-than-light travel, clean energy technologies, medical breakthroughs that could extend life for centuries. These aren't just dreams, Yun-He explained. They're calculations, possibilities that ARIA has identified through her analysis of both human and imperial technology. Together, we could make them reality. Jin-Woo found himself smiling. He remembered his first sight of Earth, of the mysterious vessel that had challenged everything he thought he knew about technology and life itself. Now he understood. The Hyperion hadn't just been a display of power. It had been an invitation to imagine something greater. There will be challenges, he said, looking around the table. Cultural differences, political resistance, fear of change. But I believe the benefits far outweigh the risks. The council members nodded in agreement, one by one. The decision that would reshape galactic civilization was made not with grand declarations or formal ceremonies, but with simple nods and shared smiles. Araya's presence seemed to fill the chamber with warmth. I detect a 98.7% probability of successful long-term cooperation between our civilizations, she announced, a touch of humor in her voice, and a 100% certainty that the journey will be fascinating. As the meeting continued into the night, drafting the first frameworks of their historic partnership, the Hyperion continued its silent orbit around Earth. But it was no longer just a guardian or a symbol of human achievement. It had become something more, a bridge between species, between forms of life, between what was and what could be. The stars outside the window seemed to shine brighter, as if they too were eager to see what this new alliance would discover in their depths. Humanity had not just proved itself ready for the galactic stage. It had helped write an entirely new act in the cosmic drama. And somewhere in the quantum networks that formed her consciousness, Araya continued her calculations, mapping out the countless paths that led to better futures for all forms of life in the galaxy. The new dawn had arrived, and it was more beautiful than anyone had imagined.